Good evening. This is Matt Mosley with the Arkansas Sports Network, back with you again on Big Pig Energy. Joining us tonight, we've got a couple of special guests joining Coach Kelly and I, as usual. We got Keith Grayson, the head of the 4th and 25 funds, one of the NIL funds for the University of Arkansas and the football program, well, the whole athletic program, actually. And then we've got a Auburn Twitter legend, a friend of mine named Auburn Memes. I've asked Memes to be with us tonight. We're going to talk about NIL a little bit, kind of to start. Don't really want to get much into the Auburn game. I didn't see a whole lot last week, Coach, that made me feel good. I think Razorback Nation let that be known pretty much all weekend and on through the week this week. And I don't want to beat a dead horse or hog, so to speak, but what I really want to talk about to start the show tonight is this NIL stuff, because Coach Pittman said some things this week in a press conference. Keith and I have talked about this offline quite a bit over the last couple of months or year at least, and I just wanted to start out. Memes, can you kind of fill in Razorback Nation about this On to Victory collective that Auburn's put together? Kind of how it works, what Auburn's doing with it, and kind of give us some background on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I assume y'all can hear me okay? We're absolutely good still on audio?
Yep, got you good.
Awesome. Great. For the listeners out there, I'm driving in the car, so if you hear horns or other background noises, it just kind of comes to territory. But we have a mobile studio tonight. But yeah, so as far as the deal with On to Victory and what it is, I think it's kind of important to look back at what it was. So obviously I think it was July 1st of 2021. This thing was just like the wild, wild west. I mean, it just dropped out of the sky. NIL is here, and everybody go figure it out. And a lot of these schools have recently got in trouble because they try to do a tax exempt status in various ways you can do that, which obviously would imply that you're doing some type of charity work. And it seems like the IRS kind of put the hammer down on that. So a lot of schools got in some trouble there. Fortunately, Auburn was smart and was forthcoming enough to not do that. So that was not something that they had dealt with. But when this thing got started, it really started, I believe the name of it was NIL Auburn or Auburn NIL. And there was another one called, I believe it was the Plains NIL club, or they had all these kind of different little buzzwords. It was which ones are going to stick and who's going to do it, because obviously these are not university athletic department affiliated, so these are essentially private businesses that are collectively raising funds, essentially crowd raising from fans. As low as of now, a $17 donation is to get you in the door, up to as big of a check as you're willing to write. So, and obviously the point of this is for Auburn's case, 90% of the funds to go to the athletes to do their thing. And of course, like with anything with name, image, and likeness, there's some type of return given. And that's kind of the ever evolving process of, well, we got a train coming, guys. This time it couldn't be more perfect. But that's kind of the ever evolving process of what this is and what it'll become. But On to Victory is kind of what it formed to, I believe, year and a half ago. They kind of got that name, and then ever since then, it's sort of it's ever changing. And that's not just with Auburn. I think that's kind of the landscape with everybody with NIL and all the collectives and this and that. But that is where it is at now, and they got a big campaign and a big push for they're currently raising. But I don't want to get kind of too far into the rabbit hole. Were there any specific questions to kind of guide some of the conversation on to Victory?
Yeah, I mean, is there and being as this private, so just to help our fans understand, because a lot of folks are not as up on this stuff. I mean, when it's privately donated like that, how does this money get accounted for? Is it public traded information, or is it private, or is it out there?
So,
like the university, they do their budgets at the end of the year. They obviously send out a report to the conference and NCAA showing what they've spent and account for every dime.
Right. So these are private these are private companies. So, and I won't speak to every NIL collective. I'm sure most of them operate in a very similar fashion, but I will just speak for, On to Victory and kind of what they've got going on. I mean, these are private companies. Like I said, they're not affiliated with the university. They are their own thing. They're not connected to the athletic department. Now, do they, in quotes, partnership, work closely with, all the buzzwords? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what they say. That's what they do, but it is not, there's no technical overlap. But from what I understand, is kind of the accountability is you have a board of trustees. Are y'all still with me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I was I thought I lost Bluetooth in my car. So they have a board of trustees that is like an unpaid board. And from what I understand, that is the group that sort of oversees the governments of the operations. But the idea is the principle of the collective is they want to give as much money to the athletes as possible. So what they say is 90% goes to the athletes, and that 10% is overhead. That's paying the staff, the website, the bills, the accounting, whatever they got to do to just the bare minimum of running a business. And they want to give as much to the athletes as they can. And I personally think that is totally fair. I mean, you got to have overhead, you got to pay people who do the just the basics of running the business. And I think 90% is a good number. So, if I donate $10, 9 of that is going to an athlete. That's awesome. All for that. And that can really make a big difference for these kids. Now, if you want to kind of get in the conspiracy theory world, well, you're not saying who's getting paid what. There's a lot of transparency, and I do think there's a level of trust that some people may have of like, well, how do I actually know what that money's going to? Now, for On to Victory, they do have a selection where you can actually pick football, basketball, baseball, gymnastics, women's soccer, women's basketball, men's tennis, women's tennis, and so on. And so you have that allotment there. And I mean, obviously, you want to trust in good faith that that money's going there, but can you actually verify? Are they stating what these athletes are getting paid? No. Are they? Do they have any private, publicly accessible or member accessible documents proving where these are going?
He's
To my
got
knowledge, no, they
it
don't.
makes car insurance easy. With the Geico app, you can check your policy on the go.
Y'all still with me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we heard a Geico commercial.
I had a commercial
Yeah, I'm about to say
on my screen.
I heard
I was looking at some numbers, listening to you talk, and it just all of a sudden started playing on.
Oh.
I heard a gecko.
It was
So,
a Geico commercial.
but yeah, that is kind of where that side of it stands. And I was kind of crowd, I guess you could say, farming some opinion information. I sent some tweets out last night, just trying to like, what do the masses think of the collectives here? What are their opinions on it? It was really interesting stuff, and it was kind of like, why don't you donate? And a lot of it was money or this and that. And some people thought that, oh, you had to be a big wig donor. And when they first started this thing, it had a very high price point. We're like, hey, unless you're donating, I'm making a number up, but it roughly, 500 a month, like plus, don't talk to us. And that was going to ostracize a lot of the fan base. And I was like, well, if you can crowdfund the deal to where you can get X number of people to donate, 34 after the Bo Jackson was the big number, 34 a month. And like I said, they even did the 17, and now they just launched this thing called I think it's War Eagle Plus, which is essentially like a sort of like a very in-depth video blog of like the life of an athlete, kind of like a very live, in-depth documentary. You get to see the never before seen kind of like behind the scenes life of what the average student athlete's going for. And I'm not familiar with what the nitty gritty that'll be, but I think it's a cool concept. And I think it's just the idea here is just finding whatever creative way that these athletes can give some type of value back for these folks' donations to the collective, which by definition, that is name, image, and likeness. There's got to be some tangible return for that money.
Awesome. Well, we won't keep you any longer. I know you got a basketball game coming up, and I just want you to know there's no hard feelings about what y'all did to us last weekend. I have grieved it, and I have moved on.
Yeah. Look, it's all the roles were reversed a year ago.
That's right.
Arkansas came to Jordan Hare, and in the score, I mean, Arkansas beat them pretty good, but the score was was the game was worse than that score made it look. And obviously, Brian Harsin was getting paid a lot of money to be unemployed that following Monday. And obviously, we'll see what ends up the fate of Pittman will be. But that's kind of the nature of college sports, and that's what makes it fun. And no matter what happens, I think there could be an exciting Auburn Arkansas game next year. So it's and then of course, I mean, you said basketball. I mean, that's always a slugfest there. So, but before I jump off, is there any other on to victory questions that you guys had that I could help drop some knowledge on, kind of what Auburn's got going on in those realms?
Keith or Kevin, you got anything?
I don't think so.
No, I just think it goes without saying that if the Arkansas fan base is asking how collectives work 2 years after they've started and everybody has a head start on us, that tells where we're at as a program overall.
Well, I'll say one last thing on this, and that's kind of what's got going on with Auburn people, and maybe you guys can kind of relate to this. And this is my opinion, but the average fan who's plugged in and follows stuff closely outside of just the 60 minutes or however long of a game does not really know how the collectives work and exactly what they do. And the websites, I don't think, are the most transparent thing. Some of the information's still a little tough to navigate through. And then after that, the just average fan who's not really tuned into the social media, just 6 days a week, they don't think about it. I could think they have even less of a clue. And what I think the problem for that is what these schools are, and this is kind of my opinion on the Auburn situation, and maybe Arkansas and other schools have a similar deal going on, is the fundraising brass. The name of that game has always been to appeal to the 1%, get the richest donors and get their money and make sure they know what's going on, but don't really worry about the masses. Well, if you're crowdfunding this thing and you're really trying to get the money from the average fan and put it at a price point where they can really afford, and to do that, you want to make them understand what it is and to have some faith and trust in that relationship and make it feel valued or whatever it may be. And the issue is I feel like there's a lot of the people who are moving and shaking these collectives. They are absolute wizards with getting the money out of the big money, but I don't think they really are in touch of how to connect with just a middle class fan. And through that, I think it's just building transparency and trust. And I think that's a really easy thing to do. But then I kind of scratch my head. I'm like, then how come it just seems like they don't really know this? Because on the Auburn side, it's just donate to On to Victory, You're seeing all these On to Victory commercials, but it's just asking for money, but with no real, there's nothing more than that. Now, if you dig deeper and do some research, yeah, you can find out a little bit more, but there's still a lot of people who just don't know outside of, hey, you should do this. The coaches want you to do it and it helps players.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of sound like a similar situation to what maybe Arkansas folks are feeling from just like I said, the average fan?
We don't have a crowdsourced. I mean, we have something that's connected to our foundation, but not anything that's fan driven or that's been started by a fan. And my thing is, maybe I'm a little cynical that if I'm given $10 a month or $100 a month or $1,000, and there's a cumulative, there's society, all the fans as a whole give $10 million. I'm thinking somebody's walking around with $5 million in their pocket or more. And it's privately, you just got to trust that they're going to be upfront and transparent with the information. So that's why I started something that is a 501c3 where you have to disclose all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, in my opinion, and this is my sole opinion, I do think that there should be more transparency with collectives. And I hate to kind of even flirt at the idea of a little political topic here, but wage inequality is something that gets tossed around in certain conversations. And what happens when some stuff comes out and you're seeing that just call a spade here, certain athletes are getting paid way more than others, rather that be based on the sport they're playing. Maybe there happens to be correlation with male athletes of the same sport getting paid more than the female, whatever. how do you really justify why an athlete should get X number of money? What if two 5-star receivers for a school are getting paid in the same class are getting drastically different, one being a lot more? That can raise a lot of questions, and I don't have the answers for this stuff, and I feel like this is going to be one of those things where it kind of gets there and can create could potentially create some malice and turmoil. And yeah, and like I said, I mean, if you do donate to, hey, I want this going solely to the golf team because I love golf and I want to see them succeed, how do you know it's going to golf? Like, you trust it, and maybe there's some bigwig stuff on the inside that I don't even know about, but you're right. I mean, if it's not, if you publicly can't do it, I mean, I assume you're just trusting a board of trustees to just oversee this and say, yes, this is all going correctly. And maybe fundamentally folks they don't maybe care that much, but I think transparency is a big future conversation point that NILs and or collectives across the board might be coming to see here in the near future. Because I know in the Auburn sphere, that is something that folks are already talking about.
I've got several comments. I wasn't going to say anything. Now I'm going to say something because
Let's go.
I can't take myself. I can't take it. Number one, this is something that would help all these NIL foundations. I was asked when NIL was first coming together. I just resigned. I just left the New England Patriots and came back, and somebody called me and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this NIL thing? Well, I saw the writing on the wall. It was not going to be transparent, and people were going to be asking questions, and where there's money, somebody's going to take some money, and that's a problem. And I didn't want to be a part of that. It may have been dumb on my part. It may have been the only way I'd ever make any money. But that said, I saw that. I did a little investigating though. And I say research on things because I was thinking, where are you going to get your money? There's always your big money donors, but they've also got a responsibility to donate to the university. They may want to do extra or whatever. And if you go visit, I went and visited the St. Jude Hospital, the cancer hospital in Memphis. I know that sounds crazy. If you have cancer and you go to that hospital, the clients don't pay a penny. It's all funded privately through donations. Now, here's the kicker. It takes like $2.6 million a day to operate that hospital, pay the people, all this kind of stuff. 85% of all their funding comes from $35 and under.
Mm-hmm.
30, because people nowadays don't mind parting with $35. So to me, the marketing for an NIL foundation would be to appeal to those people. And those people, while I think they will give more, like that's why middle class people tip more than higher class, than upper socioeconomic people. I think they see a value in stuff like that. Well, if you explain to me where my money's going or transparent, I'm going to give you some, I'm much more likely to give you money. If it's donate to these athletes, I'm not going to do that. And so I think y'all are right on some of that, but I think people are forgetting about the $50 and under, $50 and under, and how much that adds up to. The St. Jude Hospital is a prime example. It's been that way. It's been between 85 and 92% of their full funding comes from $35 and under for the past 10 years. Okay. That's incredible to me with the amount of money they take in a year, 2.6 million a day. And they have to have that 365 days a year. Okay. That said, the whole female equal pay for NIL is the dumbest freaking thing I have ever seen. That's like saying the WNBA women should make as much as the NBA guys. They don't make as much money, you idiots. You need your football team to be successful because they bring in revenue that pays for football and every other sport except basketball, and baseball pays for most of itself. That's predominantly at every college. So you can say, well, let's go field a great girls lacrosse team. And that all sounds fun. And let's give them equal pay to the quarterback and the wide receiver. But that's not helping your overall athletic, your institution in general. It's not helping your athletics across the board, because bottom line is the money for the athletes is one thing. But if they're not winning and you lose revenue, and some of that revenue from football goes to all these other sports, what you're looking at is hurting these other sports. And people, number one, you don't deserve, and you don't deserve the same pay. or else the CEO of Apple and the guy that's working in the tech room should be making the same thing. That's not life. And it doesn't matter if you're man, woman, boy, or girl. You get more money. You get more money if you're bringing in more revenue. And if you're bringing in more revenue, your sport, it's more important to the overall athletic program. And you have to have that. So the argument about that is silly. And if you tell me, if I know an NIL foundation, we cater to the 10%. I've been watching this in college and high school for too long. We cater to the 10% to go, wait a minute, I'm not giving money if it's not equal pay for equal play. Mm-hmm. Well, there's 10% that care. I'm the 90% that says, I'm going to tell you this. If I give you $100 and you're giving the girl softball player the same as you're giving the freaking running back for the Hogs, I'm not giving you any money because that's not helping our entire athletic program. And now, but to be honest with you, I'm probably not giving you a lot of NIL money anyway, because I'm still just don't like the way it's done. But if you do it clearly and do it right and do it in a way that it really helps out the overall athletic program, that's a whole different deal. That's my take on the thing, but nobody has the balls to stick. Can I say balls on here?
Yeah, you can say balls.
You had nobody has the balls to stand up and say, look, you cannot pay them all equally. This is stupid. You put 10 million NIL into the women's softball team and you put 10 million into the football program, see what your return on investment is. Mm-hmm. It's vastly different. Well, and we forget that, and that part matters. That matters, but nobody has the balls to say it.
To give the viewers a little bit of context, just Coach said something kind of important a while ago about revenue generation, okay, and lost revenue. I got my hands on the 21-22 revenue package for the University of Arkansas. And I went through it today and was looking at, it records every nickel that was spent on every sport, breaks it out. Got to looking just to give you some perspective, okay? The football team, all right, the Razorback football team generated, if I can pull my file back up, generated around after expenses, before expenses, total operating expenses was around $46 million. They ended up with a net profit of $36.6, almost $37 million in 21-22. That was a bowl year, okay? Men's basketball generated expenses somewhere in the neighborhood of $11 million, 11.8. Okay, that's turning lights on at Bud Walton, that's referees, that's ticket sales, that's novelty items, that's food, everything that's involved. They cleared a net profit of $12.7 million. Women's basketball finished in the hole $4.2 million in 21-22. To give you some perspective on the disparity between the amount of money that's made and generated. And we're talking dollars. I'm not talking about the importance of the sport. And I'm not.
That's a different deal.
That's a different conversation. I'm talking purely now. The rest of the sports in the whole university ended up finishing at a negative loss of almost $28 million in 21-22. And had it not been for football, they wouldn't have cleared a net profit of a little over $8.5 million in 21-22 as a complete athletic program.
Yeah, I mean, football is carrying most every school's profit, and like I said, that gets kind of the whole debate of. I think that was what it was. It's brought up earlier is the whole, kind of what do you do with the pay and what brings in the money and the profits and this and another, and obviously with the university you've got Title IX that governs that stuff pretty soundly.
Oh yeah,
but when it's private, it's kind of its whole own deal. And, for the most part, it kind of goes to, the free market supply and demand. It will kind of justify itself. And especially if it's a deal where people who donate can select, hey, I want it to go to this sport or multiple sports, and then it can be divvied out there. And I think a lot of that will take care of itself, but it was just one of those deals where I was bringing that up, not necessarily of like, oh, I think it should be this way, I think it should be that way. And, all honesty, like I don't really necessarily have any strong opinion one or another, but it's more of these are just conversations that are going to start coming up with NIL and collectives and everything because it's so new. Because what happens, you have one or very few people who are essentially deciding where this big bucket of money is going amidst all these deals. Because despite what some people might think, like the coaches don't negotiate NIL like that. That's not what the coaches do. The coaches say, you go to that office, which is off campus, you sit down in this office and you negotiate, you get it. And some players will bring agents with them and like it actually sit down and have it negotiate with an agent, which, for a young kid, having somebody that's got a little bit more experience in the thing like that's probably not a bad idea, especially if it's a high profile player. But I mean, that's kind of the right that they have to do. And from what I understand, you kind of go in there and just say, hey, this is my worth. And, where's it ill? Or I know what Auburn has done is they do team deals. So they basically say, I'm just making up here. Okay. The men's diving team, y'all get X number of dollars. And it's basically to each player.
Mhm.
And, and then sometimes they do individual players and so on. Like I said, I don't know all the dirty, I'm not an athlete at Auburn currently, so I can't say exactly what's happening. I've had some conversations with folks, but for the most part, I try to be respectful of people's business and not get, because, I don't want some random person DMing me like, how much money do you make? Like, it's a private deal, but I think there's some important transparency that can kind of help with the context of the whole thing. And transparency might warm some more people up to donate some more. And that's kind of what the name of the game is. And I think just understanding is very important and just getting it set up and so on and so on. So, but Matt, guys, I appreciate y'all having me. I'm about to jump off here. Obviously love the conversation with NIL. And I think it's fascinating how what it's doing now, what it'll affect with every sport. And not only just seeing what's going on with Auburn and other schools in the SEC and really just kind of across the country. And I think everybody's kind of having their own situation. Even some of the stuff that you told me about what's going on with Arkansas, I had no clue about. And I would love to obviously sometime off air, learn a little bit more about that. So I hope for those listening that I can shed a little bit of insight of what's going on to Victory and what's happening to Auburn. And of course, like a lot of the stuff they do have on their website, which was recently revamped. So if anybody has any questions about like the dollar amounts and what that stuff includes in those packages, I mean, just on to victory.com and you can see what there is. So I'm up to jump off here, guys. Thank y'all for having me, and y'all have a good rest of the evening unless there's anything else y'all need from me.
Hey, thanks, Memes. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hey, glad to have on. Y'all enjoy the rest of it.
All right, brother. So, Coach Pittman said yesterday in his press conference, he said, I think everybody wants more money. They want a pool of money that collectives can bring that can help your program, that can make you competitive around the country. We're not talking specifically about that much. That's really with the NIL department, but the money and the funds that are there, we need to grow that budget. Once we do that, we can obviously become more competitive in recruiting. He went on to say, talking about the state of it, he said, I'm not fine with it though. The way it is now, if we're going to be an NFL type franchise, we probably ought to look at what the NFL's doing regarding salary caps, incoming players, because there's some guys on the team, in all honesty, that came in without, guys literally coming in with clothes in grocery bags, Walmart sacks, because they just don't have the money. I mean, they don't. And I think that's where, Keith, it gets interesting, because there are teams that prey on other teams. They watch performance, and through back channel conversations or whatever, they're poaching players from other teams. I mean, it's almost like tampering in NFL.
Yeah, my point earlier, my concern wasn't if everybody's getting their fair shake. My concern is the people that are running it having their hand in the cookie jar. That's my thing, is I just don't trust people. I was raised in a household by someone, my dad's a tax attorney, not to say like my dad is this or whatever, but that's my background. So I'm just always, somebody has to prove to me that they're trustworthy other than me going in and trusting people up front. So especially when it comes to money and that much money, that was my point. I don't care about the women's volleyball team. But anyway, yeah.
We're going to get a lot of viewers with that one, I can tell you right now.
Well, and apologies, I wasn't going at anybody. I just get sick of hearing the equal pay and the Megan Rapinoe and all this bull crap. And now it's leaked into that, because I heard that the other day too. We were doing the Buzz radio show, and somebody sent in a message and they're talking about that. And I'm like, why are we giving KJ this much money? And I'm all for that, because he's not performing for that much money right now for a variety of reasons. But why are we giving him that much money and we're not giving the softball pitcher that much money? I'm just like, do you really have to ask that question? But people really do have to ask that question. If I wasn't coming at you or coming at him,
No.
Just apologies if you thought I was. That's not what
I
I
just
was
want to
saying.
clarify. I just want to clarify. I don't trust anybody. So
I,
I just want that
I
out
get
there
it.
on our webs. So no, but I think the university, that's their responsibility. Not that, I mean, me as a fan, I'm a football fan. I just don't, I've never watched a women's volleyball game. I can just say that. But I would probably give money if I had, if I was running a collective with 10 million, I could probably peel some off for them. So anyway, the university, that the Title IX stuff is their responsibility, and so they have actually come up with a program, and I think it was supposed to hit where they're going to put 10 million to the side to sponsor 400 athletes because they were brand ambassadors for the University of Arkansas with their, because just by them wearing the jersey that everybody's going to make $25,000 a year. And they had come up with that number before. I don't know if that's still in play or not. But I know Juracek had looked at doing that before.
I think it is, Keith. I mean, when you talk about, and we've been talking about this for weeks, you, me, Jordan Wright from Wright's Barbecue. I mean, you get situations like what happened Saturday night or Sunday, depending on who you listen to, where you have a booster try to manipulate a situation to oust a coach after a bad loss, which I get. Arkansas fans feeling a certain way about getting beat like we got beat in the way they looked. I didn't like it. I live in Alabama. You guys know that. I'm married to an Auburn fan. I hate it when we lose to Auburn. Like, I can't stand it. Anything. I don't care if it's freaking cornhole. I don't want to lose to them. But at the end of the day, like, this ain't, we hadn't beat Auburn. I said this last week to Coach. We hadn't beat Auburn in Fayetteville since 2015. So there's more going on here than just one football game. That when you're looking at NIL, and this is really the cusp of where I'm at with it right now. You've got guys that come from generational poverty that are getting handed $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, right, just for showing up on campus and going to class and playing, which is great. I'm cool with them earning their money. I got a problem with it. I like the NIL program. I think it's awesome. But at the end of the day, I'm like Keith, I think there's got to be some sort of transparency there so you know where the funds are channeling, because what I don't want to see happen, and credit to Hunter Yurachek, because I can't say that the last two ADs we've had wouldn't have caved under Booster's pressure when they twisted the screws and said, hey, we'll give you $20 million to buy this cat out because we want him gone, but you got to hire this guy in his place. That's of course, that's speculation and rumors. I want to make clear about that. But for him to have the balls, as Coach said a while ago, to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do business this way. This is not the way we're going to make decisions. I got to give him credit for that. Now, we lost 48-10. Offense looked absolutely anemic until Jacoby Criswell comes in the game in the second half, early in the third quarter, quickly moves down the field, scores a touchdown, had some problems, with the offensive line again in the fourth quarter, but, scored the only touchdown of the day to Isaac Tesla. Armstrong had he got another catch on Saturday. I think he had 2 receptions for 34 yards. He's had 1 catch in 26 straight games, going all the way back to 21 with A&M Commerce. Where, Coach, tell me, I want to hear your opinion on this, because I know that your buddy Baz and Bruce James had some comments about Sam and where Sam's at, and how they feel there needs to be a change on the hill. Where does Coach Kelly sit in this situation right now?
Well, first of all, I think everybody was like, well, we thought he was going to be gone, but then Sam came and said he didn't want to leave. Look, even if he wanted to step down, or if they wanted him to, with 2 games left, probably is not the time to do it. And they go, well, Sam said he's ready to restart and do the, and build it back and whatever. That's what he has to say. Even if he wants to be gone, he's got to say that right now. And the university needs him to. And I'm sure Hunter Yurachek said, do you want to leave in good standing? Here's what you need to say if you're asked that question. And he should do that. A good AD should do that. He's got to protect the program and the whole athletic, department, really, to go, hey, we don't have a bunch of dummies in there that say whatever comes to their mind. So I think he had to say that and had to do it. Me personally, everybody, and at times I think Hunter Yurachek, is obviously going to do good things, bad things, whatever. The dumbest thing he did was when Sam Pittman won 6 games, he doubled his salary and upped his buyout. 6 games. Why did we hire him and pay him in the first place? We didn't. We thought he'd win 6 games. You don't double a man's salary for 6 games. You're for mediocrity. You're doubling salary. Now, I'm not saying Sam shouldn't get that. Should get that. That's not the point. He signed a contract, and we went in without being asked, and went in and gave him more money. When you do that, the expectations go way up, and they did go way up. And then when you have a season like this, that's what's going to happen. He had not proven that he's going to go 6 games, back up, back up, back up. And what's happened is the expectations have risen. If he's still making $3.5 million, hold on a minute. Shut up. Stop it. Stupid. They want to go. This time of night, my dogs have learned they can run the household. I love them, but this time of night, they want to go for a walk, so they start barking at me. Like, I don't know how they know what time it is. But anyway, that said, so what he's done is raise the expectations. And if you raise those expectations in a state like Arkansas, where the average household income is like $29,000, and you make $130,000 a week for 52 weeks of the year, then you're gonna get some people wanting him gone. If he goes and has a 3 and whatever we are year and gets beat 48-10 at home and gets embarrassed by Mississippi State and that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not saying he should or shouldn't be. I think he will be gone. If you're a check did, tell whoever was wanting to write a check, I'll take your check, but you're not picking the coach.
Mm-hmm.
I would even say your check could go so far as, look, I'm going to pick the coach. And if you want to write the check, then if you approve of that guy, that's fine, but I'm picking the coach. I think that's fine. If he did say, I'm not letting you pick the coach, that's what he's got to say, because then the next guy is going to want to pick the coach and write a check, and the next guy. And why should why should a guy that runs a company, think he can pick the football coach? No, I think sometimes those guys might be better at picking the football coach, because, I've always thought most great football coaches can run an operation and manage human beings, the coaches, the coordinators, and the players. And that's what a good CEO does. Mm-hmm. And if you get lucky, they know a lot about defense, like a Nick Saban. But let me tell you, the game hasn't passed Nick Saban by, but I'll tell you this. He's a much better CEO than he is defensive coach, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And we need one of those first. That's why a long time ago, remember when the Bobby Petrino and the John L. Smith deal, I was begging for anybody that would listen, and I couldn't get it back because I knew a couple people on the board, and they wouldn't even entertain the thought. And I get it because it's so wild. I was begging them to go hire Bobby Knight as our head coach, our head football coach, because I had a couple of friends that were coaching, full-time position coaches on the staff, that were telling me on the inside, and nobody was doing anything, and nobody was holding anybody accountable. John L. wasn't holding anybody accountable, and all this kind of stuff. And he said, we need somebody. He goes, we're not even showing up to work all the time. We needed somebody to hold people accountable. Tell me Bobby Knight wouldn't have gone in, and we wouldn't have been better than we would have been with John L. Smith as our coach that year, because we had all the parts back. Tyler Wilson was back, line was back, receivers back. We would have been better off. I've gone down another path, but where I'm at is, I do think that we need to pay a coach that's established, that's won, and that we can get to come here and offer them a buttload of money and do it with this. We're going to give you a ton of money per year, but your buyout is going to be minimal or none. And still, people are going to take it. We need to start the paradigm shift back that direction. It's gone to the, Texas A&M, the last 2 coaches, Sumlin and Jimbo, have started the paradigm shift, the crazy buyouts. Somebody needs to take it the other way, because if you offer, trying to think, Elko, the Elko name came up at Duke. He's done a good job at Duke. If you offered Elko $11 million a year, but no buyout, you think he's going to pass that up? If we want him, I'm not saying I want the guy, but if we wanted him, you think he's going to pass that up? He's not passing that up. You're leaving Duke and the ACC to come to the SEC for $11 million a year. He's taking it. Matter of fact, I think you could pay the guy $1 million a win, and he would take the job. If he wins 6 games, you get $6 million. You win 10 games, you get $10 million. We're happy to pay you with no buyout. I think that is where we need to head. But I do think, to answer your question, I think Sam will be gone at the end of the year. I bet he steps down, or at least it's said that he steps down but I bet we still give him the bottom half of his buyout. And then we're doing the coaching search and listening to the wild, crazy rumors again.
The thing that I keep looking at, and I'm connected to a lot of different recruits and some of the younger players that are on the team. And the one thing that I'm looking at that concerns me about this whole thing is roster turnover, because you run a risk of losing a good chunk of your 24 signing class that are committed to Pittman. You also run the risk of losing a good chunk of your 23 kids that just signed that were committed to Pittman, that want to play for Pittman. They don't care about the Razorbacks. They care about playing for Pittman. Because there is, and well as I do, there are guys, they don't care what the logo says. It's the guy that they're working for.
Yeah, but are you willing to keep those guys for a coach that put this product on the field this year? Sam, to me, and now you want to get into really what I feel like, Sam needs to coach his strength.
Yeah.
A guy that he was his head coach at a major Power 5 program that was over him told me, if he will coach the O-line, your O-line will be good. He is so good. Everybody knows it. Everybody hears it. But this is from a Power 5 coach that was over him, that was his head coach, that said, your O-line will be good. If he's not doing that,
mm-hmm.
and your O-line's bad, he's not doing a good job, because that's what a head coach has to do. Go make the part he can make the best it can be, and then manage everybody else. And at the same time, it took them that long to get rid of Enos.
Mm-hmm.
It was that dumb for him probably to hire Enos, evidently, it looks like. Supposedly none of the players liked him. None of the dang coaches liked the guy. Now, I'm going from what I've heard and this kind of stuff. But it was a bad hire in a long time to get rid of the guy. And everybody goes, well, it's kind of cool. He had loyalty to him since he hired him. You know what loyalty is? Loyalty isn't a two-way street this way, but it's a two-way street this way. Mm-hmm. I've got to be loyal to my guy, coach, but my gosh, if he's not doing a good job, I got to be loyal to my players, my program, and the university that's paying me my salary and funding all these kids and all this kind of stuff. And to me, that's what you have to remember, because coaches, and even Kenny Hatfield way back in the day, when they said, Kenny, fire your whatever, or we're firing you, when Frank Broyles told that. And Kenny said, I'm not firing so-and-so. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, you're gone. And he fired Kenny. Well, everybody's like, well, Kenny was loyal. And he was. And I love Kenny Hatfield. I mean, I know the guy. I love the guy. But he wasn't being loyal to his team when he wouldn't get rid of that guy, because then you ended up losing the whole dang staff. And that's what I think. That's where I think Sam is sometimes. And I get it. That's a great, nice mentality. But do your freaking job. Coach the O-line first. I will always coach my quarterback, and I'll coach the freak out of him. And he's going to be pretty darn good. And because if he's not, I'm letting down on my job first and foremost. And that's what Sam needs to do. Now, he doesn't have to be with them every minute of every day like an O-line coach, but we know he could have. I know from what I'm hearing from guys that coach him, he could have an effect, and he's not having that effect. And now he's pacifying his O-line coach and taking up for him. What the best thing he could have done for that guy is, as soon as they get out of this press conference, 7 weeks ago, I'm going to talk to the O-line coach, my guy I hired, and tell him he better get his crap together. And I'm also helping him, or I'll take over myself. Mm-hmm. He would have done well, because then everybody would have shut up talking about the O-line coach. And he's just not handling these things right. And that's part of his job. That's why you get paid the big bucks, to sit in front of the media, answer the questions, and not say you are fat shaming me, or not say I'm canceling social media for a while. Don't announce it. Just cancel it. You don't have to say all that stuff and try to find, and distract. If somebody said after the third, 4th and 1, a reporter, I watched the press conference. I love watching press conferences. I watched the press conference, and they said, with kid gloves, very kid gloves. Hey, coach, could you take me through the process of what you were thinking on 4th and 1 this game? You put KJ back in the shotgun. What were you thinking? He's like, I'm not answering that question. You people, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, that's the question you're supposed to answer. He very gently asked you, what was the process? Well, I thought KJ was back there, and, we knew that they were weak in the B gap because their left tackle, our guard, was handling him all night, or their defensive tackle. And we thought we'd try it again, but we had good reason to try it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But then when you won't, that just causes bigger thinking. And all he's proved to me in that regard, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a great O-line coach. All he proved to me is he doesn't know how to handle the tense situations. And I get it. I've done that before too and not handled those situations. Probably everybody has to an extent. But now it's gone on for this long. And with that said, if that's the way it's going to continue, if I don't see something out of these last 2 weeks, but I will tell you what's going to happen. Those people you mentioned that might leave, the commits or the ones that were here last year that want to play for him, here's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to beat Florida International because they freaking suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're terrible. We're going to win by 30 points. They're going to cover the spread. Everybody's going to be happy because they're going to bet money on. Actually, they're going to be unhappy because they're probably going to bet money against the Hogs. And then we're going to go to Missouri with 0 to lose. And finally, we're going to start playing that way on offense with nothing to lose. And here's what's going to happen. Just like I told everybody that was going to happen against Florida, when you make a coaching change or the threat of a change, all the coaches, not just the one that thinks they're going to lose their job, go in there and do a great job that week because they're afraid they're all going to lose their job. Mm-hmm. And they get everybody, they hold everybody accountable, make sure they're in the meetings on time, they're paying attention, doing all this kind of stuff, not screwing off, practicing a little harder, putting stuff in, tweaking stuff, and they're going to do a great job for that impression that week. And they're going to go in there, and those players are going to play for Sam. And we're going to look really good against Missouri. And then it's going to be kind of hard to make a change. We might even beat Missouri, in my opinion. I know it doesn't look like it, and I'm the last guy that says that because I picked against us almost every game this year. But that's how you do it, and then you end up not being able to make a change because they won their last game. And you're in a situation, and then you're halfway through next year, and you're right back where you were, and you're going, well, how much good did it do us for those commits to go ahead and stay at Arkansas? Not if they're not going to be led or be able to, or have a guy that hires properly, has connections, and do that. And I'll shut up. God, I've talked too long.
Now, I see it both ways. I see it as, yeah, they need to, it's probably time to cut fish bait and move on. Okay, let's move the boat to another hole. I get it. The thing that concerns me as a fan, number one, I'm speaking as a fan. In a minute, I'm going to speak as a dad. But as a fan, the thing that concerns me is A&M's open right now. Mississippi State's open right now. There's a dang good chance Florida could end up being open if they get beat by more than 20 against Florida State in 2 weeks. Let's just say Ole Miss, let's say Lane Kiffin leaves and takes A&M job as has been floated in the last 48 hours. That means Ole Miss has come back open. Ole Miss has got more money than we got right now. I mean, it's all these moving pieces, and it's never a good time to change a coach. But and I say this, and Keith, I want to get you kicking on this too. If I'm a football coach from another school in another state that I've never been to the state of Arkansas, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the high school programs, and I'm going to see what kind of shape is high school football in my homes in that state, because that's going to tell me where I've got to go recruit. And then I'm going to look at, okay, these are the states I've got to recruit. Well, now you got Texas in the league. You got Oklahoma coming into the league. You got 2 teams in Texas going to be in the SEC next year. You lose Scott Fountain, you lose Jimmy Smith, you very likely lose your pipeline to Georgia and Central Alabama, where you've been pulling some athletes the last 3 or 4 years. Keith, how would you judge that? I mean, I think it's hard to go get a quality guy. You're going to end up with a retread is what I'm afraid of. We're going to end up with some dude that's 60 years old that's on the downward slide of his career that doesn't understand college football today as it stands in a major conference. We end up with a retread. We end up with Danny Ford.
Well, Coach Kelly's more connected than anybody in this conversation with college coaches. Do you think that the overall sentiment for the Arkansas job is that it's stigmatized?
No. Oh, gosh, no. This is a good place to come for coaches. I think you can say money or whatever, and maybe Ole Miss can produce more money. I think we're viewed as highly as them as a destination place right now. Everybody likes the fact that they are a non-pro sport state, that everybody loves the Hogs. Because here's the deal. Coaches have egos. They all think they're going to come in and do a great job. And if you do a great job at Arkansas, you are the most popular, famous, loved man in the state of Arkansas, period. And they all think they're going to go do a great job. So that's where you want to be. And then they all know about the Jerry Jones connection. And if they've got any aspirations at all to coach in the pros, they think they've come in, let's go win a national championship at Arkansas, and who knows what happens. I mean, there's so many. I mean, it's viewed very, very positively among coaches, period. And it's in the SEC.
I think going back to your point about the contract extension, that's the problem with it is it's an industry standard. Chad Morris would have gotten a contract extension if he wasn't fired when he was, because after 2 years, it just recycles. They automatically, especially if you're dealing with a Jimmy Sexton client, he sets the industry standard. It's college football contracts and the monopoly money that revolves around that. So with Sam Pittman making 6 point whatever million, he's still 10th in the league, 12th. In the league in pay, and because all the ships rose, everything went up. Hell, I don't even know if we have 11 million to pay, because we've always, every time we've hired somebody, it's been towards the lower tier of contracts. And I mean, if you look at Jeff Traylor's contract at UTSA, he's making 3.6 or 3.5. And he's winning, and he's the toast of the town. Why the hell would he come try to go up against? I guess the league is changing. That's the benefit we have with the restructuring the conference, and that may be the timing that Juracek needs if he wants to make a change. Is it may be a little bit easier playing Texas and Oklahoma as opposed to Alabama and LSU every year, and thank God they didn't give us Georgia on top of it. But the scheduling has not been in our favor for the past decade, and that's what's getting all these coaches crushed. And on top of, we've made some bad hires, but I'm sure you're not going to sit around and be retired forever, Coach. Would you take the Arkansas job if it came to you? Not that I'm saying that like I would want you to be the coach, but it's a huge monumental task to turn around. It's almost an impossible situation.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing you. You're right. I understand why Sam got, industry standard. I'm just saying I don't understand why we don't have somebody with the balls to go, I'm not going to do industry standard. Because you could have, was Sam going to quit if we didn't pay him more? No. Nobody wanted the guy when we hired him. Okay. Nobody was going to hire an offensive line coach. And this is from somebody that coached over him. Nobody would have hired him because everybody knew he's a good offensive line coach and a great human being, but his leadership skills, he hasn't shown the ability to be able to lead a unit yet. So nobody's going to hire this guy as a head coach. And when we got him and we doubled his salary, we didn't have to. You wait, and how good does it look if you go one more year? Industry standard. Well, I mean, you won 6 games. You took the job. Nobody's going to come hire you out from under us. And you waited a year and saw how he did. And if he did good, then you gave him that you're going to give him last year, plus what you're going to give him next year too. And you're caught up, but he proved his worth to you. And now the expectations aren't where they were. But instead, we, start going down, and that's the case. But I get what you're saying, and you're right. I understand the pressure to pay them with industry standards, and I despise, not you, but people going, well, he's 10th, 11th in the conference. Well, he probably deserves to be, in my opinion. You go look at Missouri. I was in Missouri. Coach Drinkwitz invited me up there in March, and I went up there. I was talking to some of his coaches and doing some stuff and looking around. I'm like, how the freak can Missouri have a great team compared to Arkansas? There is. And you go, well, and I got in that argument on the radio yesterday with Justin Acree and Wes Moore. And they're like, well, they've got Kansas City and St. Louis. Okay, really? You're fielding the whole SEC football team out of Kansas City and Missouri? I think not. And Missouri football outside of those two places sucks. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting a lot from the rest of Missouri. And matter of fact, I would go take out a loan if you'd take the top 100 teams in Missouri and they had to play the top high school 100 teams in Arkansas. We would demolish them. Okay. They might beat us in the top 2, maybe not with Bryant and Conway and some of these, but they might beat us, 8 of the top 10, but we're going to win the next 20. And we've got talent here. It's not being developed. That's a whole other deal. But for Missouri, for me to go up there and look at their facilities and where they are in that town and how tough it is to get there and all those things and go, Coach Drake, a guy that nobody in Arkansas even wanted, nobody likes, for him to do that there and us not to be able to do that with some of the top facilities in the country. is amazing to me. And I just want to quit spending money and giving money away for nothing. I've said for the last 10 years, I'll take a job anywhere as a Division I coach, and I won't take a penny unless you pay me per win. What do you want to pay me? 700,000 to win? If I win 10, you're paying me 7 million. Would we be jumping for joy right now to pay Sam Pittman 7 million for 10 wins? Yeah. We ought to come up with a structured contract like that and see what we could get. Pay him, $1.5 million per win. Okay, 10, you're going to make 15 million.
To be fair,
No
after his raise, he got 9 wins, and he does have an incentive-based contract where he does get more if he goes over 8 wins. And I know a lot of contracts are tied to bowl games, but his is it's not exactly, the UConn coach back in the day had a really crazy contract that was tied to wins. I know somebody said that they would get paid $90,000 a win at Kansas once upon a time. But the Arkansas, I think the contract that Hunter Yurachek signed outside of the buyout was a little bit more progressive than people are giving him credit for.
It was. I agree.
And I sometimes, I make jokes about Yurachek because I've tried to have a couple of conversations with him. And it was like he wasn't plugged in overnight or something to recharge and couldn't rebut back. But, and I'm probably a little socially awkward to begin with, but I think he is very shrewd and he's a good AD, and he found Musselman. And I know Pittman's not ideal. I think it started out as a good marriage and it's kind of crumbling. And I do agree with you where he does need to be involved, like Saban is with cornerbacks. He needs to, his forte is offensive line. And I've seen him in practices, and he's a CEO. He stands at the 50 and he just kind of peruses around. So he needs to be more involved, in my opinion.
Something interesting. He talking about, $11 million a year. I mean, if you take 21-22's numbers and you change the coach's salary from 4.3, I think is what it was in 21-22 to, let's just say $7 million. You add another $4 million to it, or $3 million to it. That takes us from a net gross of $8 million for the whole entire athletic department down to a little below 5. I mean, and that's including bowl money. Okay. There was a bowl payout. There was an SEC bowl payout, and then extra TV revenue money off the bowl games. So, I mean, just in TV revenue that year, I think we made $53 million just off of TV revenue for the bowl, for the entire season, including the bowl games. But you get in a season where you don't have bowls and the attendance starts dipping. Because, like, Saturday night, I'm going to be honest with you, if there's 40,000 people in Fayetteville watching FIU and Arkansas play Saturday night, I'm going to be shocked. I think it's going to look like a ghost town. I'm really concerned about what it's going to look like the day after Thanksgiving, because duck season's open now. Deer season's in full tilt. The weather's supposed to be good next week during Thanksgiving, so people are going to want to go duck hunting. I mean, it's really going to be a telling thing, my son was up there last week on a recruiting visit, and the mood, that he said he felt, in the stadium as the game was going on, and then around some of the other recruits and the other visitors that were there. It was an interesting conversation for a father to have with his son about, facing adversity and seeing how things change and being on top of things as they go along. I'm concerned if we flip the coaching staff right now. Again, Keith, I know you've seen it. I've heard the same thing. He's got to get more engaged. I've said that, Coach and I've said that all season long. But I'm not ready to quit on him yet. Like, me in my heart, I'm not. And I think it's more my heart talking. And I try not to, folks know, if they watch this show, they know I typically am pretty logical about what we're talking about. But with my heart, I know what he means to a lot of these kids, and I know they play hard for him. And I just, part of me wants to give him $2 million and say, go get us an offensive coordinator, somebody that's young, aggressive, explosive, and then can take the reins and let's give it another year and then try to do a transition after that next year, somebody that's a little younger. Because I'll be honest with you, like, the guys that I would go after, the Jamie Chadwells, of the world, Jeff Traylor, I mean, are they really going to come up here for $6-7 million, or are we going to have to pay them 11? Are we going to have to overpay? Because my personal thoughts, when you overpay somebody, what's the incentive to get them to do the same level of work they were doing before they got paid? Because that's when character starts revealing itself. I mean, we've seen it with our quarterback. Our quarterback hadn't played his best this year. He got a lot of money in the offseason. Got a lot, and Keith, you can sit there and grin. I'm just going to say it. He got a lot of money. He got a Corvette. He got all these things. He ain't played great all year.
He's made business decisions in games.
Exactly. He not lowering his shoulders and getting first downs like he used to.
I was being nice, not saying anything, because he had a KJ1 hat, and I didn't know if that was.
It's a construction company. It's Keith, Jeremy, and then I hired this other guy that's the one.
I thought that was. I really thought you had your own little NIL deal with KJ or something. I'm not.
KJ1 Construction.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. Yeah, he's making business decisions on the field, and he's not exactly kept some of those private from some of his compadres that are leaking it out too. The last thing I'll say on the Pittman deal is, I don't think we should fire him if we're going to pay somebody else the 13th amount of money in the SEC.
Yeah.
I think we should fire him if we're going to get serious. And I would love to see us either hire somebody that people think we can't get, or do a high salary and get somebody that we think is pretty darn good, but it's not, not one of the top 2 in the country or something like that. But no buyout. Look, we're going to pay you $11 million a year. No buyout. We're done with the buyout thing. They're going to take it. Could we just whittle it around? People are not going to do that. It's not industry standard. Somebody's got to make the paradigm shift. And because as soon as that's done and the first guy takes it, 10 more ADs are going to do that out of the 32 that are going to be open this year. 10 more are going to do it. And now we've got a paradigm shift, and the university's not getting killed whenever they do that kind of stuff. And we can tell Jimmy Sexton to go jump in the lake. And pretty soon people will quit going to Jimmy Sexton and having him as the agent if they can't get certain jobs because he's only taking buyouts. It'll change the industry, but that's a progressive look. But I'm not for getting rid of Sam if the other. But to say, and I'm not, Matt, I love you, and I hate to go against you on this. You go, well, they're playing hard for him. Hell, they'll play hard for anybody if he'll get in there and win them over. I mean, it's football. Have you ever, Matt, you've played for different coaches in junior high and high school and whatever. Is there any one of them that you played less hard for because you didn't love him or whatever? Or did you go out there and play hard because you thought you were supposed to freaking play hard?
It wasn't the coaches that I didn't want to play for. It was some of the guys I played with.
Yeah, I went out and played as hard as I could every game. And I had 3 different coaches in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year. And I played as hard as I could every time. I played as hard as I could in the hundreds of football games I've played. I've coached as hard as I could, no matter who my guys were. And people with integrity would do that. And if some jackass kid's like, I'm not going to play hard if you get rid of Pittman, okay, well, then here's the transfer portal. I'm going to push the button for you. Get out, because we want somebody that'll just play hard because it's your freaking playing the game, and that's what you should do. And I think I'd like to give credit. The vast majority of coaches, the kids will play hard if they're coaching, whether they're playing hard for them or not. The vast majority of coaches. There are very few coaches that kids won't go play hard because they're playing the game, especially at the Power 5 level, especially at the Power 5, because they're seen on TV. There's money to be made or not made. There's just too many incentives to do it. So I don't think that's a good justification. But here's my question to both y'all: will Sam Pittman be our coach 6 months from today? Yes or no?
Coach Kelly, I know you like watching press conferences, and I do too. I watched the one right after the Auburn game on Monday, and he looked very light on his feet. Like it didn't look like it was weighing on him like it was on everybody else. So either he was told that he just got a Powerball ticket with $16.5 million on it, or he was told that he's got the ticket to go get Ken Dorsey as OC next year, who he wanted before Bryles to begin with, before he got picked up by the Bills, who was just fired by the Bills. He was available. So one of those two,
which is a stupid firing, by the way, but go ahead.
One of those two things happened because he talks to him and Hunter sit down every Sunday. I think Hunter probably replaced Barry on his walks. So one of those two things happened where he either knows the dance is over or he's coming back, and he got some sort of guarantee from that meeting. Now only those two people know that, and Hunter Yurchek could be a possum too. You never know. Everything's good until it's not. No, like you said before, what is he supposed to do? Come out and say like, yeah, I should go or whatever? He's got a contract. He's got to abide by it. He's still coaching.
What do you think's going to happen?
I don't think there's money. I don't think there's as much money as people think. I don't. The Waltons don't care. Their heirs don't care about football.
Right.
Johnny Tyson doesn't care unless Gus is the coach.
Right.
We got the Hunts give all their money, and they're trust fund kids anyway. They're not even running the company. They're giving all their money to basketball. They don't care. They're sponsoring 11 kids or 13, not 85. I don't think anything's going to happen. And I think it's the offseason is going to be a lot worse than with the fan base raising all sorts of hell than these last 4 games that we've just endured.
So you think he will be the coach next year?
I think so.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying it. Nobody's going to condemn you.
It's not what I look.
I'm not asking what you want. I'm just asking what you think. I just wonder what people think that are in your position, in my position, where we pay attention and we kind of go behind the scenes. Maybe we talk to people, but we really pay attention and care what happens. I just want to know what you think is going to happen.
I'm buddies with Pittman, and I'm kind of on the fence whether he should stay or go. I mean, we text back and forth once a week. So I don't know. I think he's going to be back, but I mean, that's not what I'm not saying that's what I want or whatever.
No,
the other thing is,
he will. But you think he will.
So
if you had to go to Vegas and bet $1,000, $10,000, would you bet yes he's back or no he wasn't?
I would bet yes he's back because I think it's a whole shill that there's all this money. I just don't think there may be. I don't know. I think all that stuff was floated to Mike Irwin and all these people to see if it would catch and people would come to the coffers and say, yeah, we're going to give the buyout money to match whoever wants it. But I just don't think that there's as much money in Northwest Arkansas as people allude to. I just don't. I think it's all smoke and mirrors.
I disagree with you there.
There's money. There's a ton of money up there, but all these people transplants from other states that don't care about Arkansas.
No. There's money on the board itself and on past board members. I mean, hundreds of millions to billions of dollars off of 10 people I can think of off the top of my head. Hundreds of closer to $1 billion than in the lower 500 millions. And they're just waiting for the right person to ask them to pay a guy off. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't. Again, I'm not going there. I'm saying the money's there if you know who to ask. And I got a feeling they know who to ask, but they just don't want to get, and I'm not saying I blame Hunter Yurchek. I don't know that they want to get anybody else with money involved and thinking they have a say over who it is. They could get it paid off. I could get it paid off. I could make 2 phone calls and get it paid off. I will guarantee I could do that. That's not my job and not what I should do. And I'm not saying I would even do that, but I would bet every penny that I have that I could get it paid off in 2, maybe 3 phone calls.
So I was proven wrong before where I was like, when the whole thing was going down with Houston Nutt before, that's when I really, I'm only 42, so I haven't been around too terribly long. And I was living outside of Arkansas when everything went down with that. And I travel back and forth to games whenever I could with a group of friends that were not Arkansas fans that I've converted since then. So we all talk. So when Houston Nutt was the head coach, I was like, I don't want him to fire him because who the hell is going to take the job? And then they go get Bobby Petrino. And I was like, all right, I'm never going to have that thought again. And here I am again saying, I don't want to fire Sam Pittman because I don't think we're going to end up with the head coach of Washington coming down here, and who the hell knows? I mean, if that's who they're going to go get, then by all means. But if they, go for GJ Kinney or whatever from Texas State, I mean, and go on some G5 random hire, another Stan Heath type thing, then keep what you got.
No, but I think we could. Like I said, I think we could get those guys. I think we could get a Washington coach. We might be able to get a Kyle Willingham. I mean, I think he's entrenched at Utah.
Right.
I mean, we might be able to get those guys. I really think we could get those guys that are like, everybody says I suck because I'm in the Pac-12, and this year it's finally good, but usually it's not. They want to prove themselves, and they have confidence in themselves. And I think people want to get in the SEC. Again, I think Arkansas is a good destination place. Sam Pittman has been our best ambassador for getting a coach and telling how much he loves it and the lakes and the people and all that kind of stuff. When he's out on the national stage, he's been our best ambassador at getting the next coach, whether it's this year or when he decides to ride off in the sunset. I think he's been our best ambassador, but I just think we could. And I'm not saying we're going to. I'm not even saying we should. I'm just saying I think we could. I think it's an option, and I think the payoff's an easy option, easier than people realize. And just like you said, when Houston Nutt left, and you're like, God, who are we going to get? And we get Bobby Petrino, it's like, oh, dang, we can get somebody else. Just because we haven't picked the right guy doesn't mean we couldn't have gotten the right guy. Picking Chad Morris turned out, and I like Chad personally. I know everybody in Arkansas hates him. I like Chad personally. Good guy. He really is a good man. But did we pick the wrong guy? Yeah, we picked the wrong guy. But is that the only guy we could have picked? No, it's not the only guy we could have picked. We just picked the wrong one.
You know what I've heard about him that has gone completely unreported? That, like, if you want to talk about somebody while he was at the University of Arkansas that outworked probably every coach, every head coach, he was there. Well, of course, his family did not move to Fayetteville,
Right.
He didn't have anything to do. He was there from dusk. He was sleeping at the office every night. Like, he outworked every head coach in the SEC, but he wasn't managing what was going on in the locker room or whatever properly. But he was definitely putting everything he had into it, which is
Chad would have been fine, not great, but he made one humongous mistake. We hired him to be the play caller. We hired him because he was a good play caller at Clemson and because he did good at SMU. And he brought his loyalty to a GA that followed him from there to Arkansas. And I met the guy, and I talked to the guy for 20 minutes, and I knew this was going to be a mistake. And I even, at one point, I even texted Chad. And I'm like, Chad, I'm just telling you, you better take over the play calling. And then, the rumored story of the AD walking in and saying, if you don't take over the play call, if you lose this next week, you're out, and you better take over the play calling. And he didn't. The guy called the game. They lost to San Jose State or whoever it was, and it's all over with. His biggest mistake was not doing what he does great, which is what Pittman's doing now. Not doing what he does great. Coach the offensive line. Chad didn't call the plays. Hey, dummies, we hired you to help us in that area as much as we hired you to do anything else. Do what you're great at, and watch everybody else follow suit. If he goes out there and that O-line dominates that D-line every day in practice because he's coaching them, that D-line's going to find a way to get better, and they're going to get better. And then all of a sudden, then the running back's got to be better because they got to get through that D-line when they're pretty good against that O. I mean, it just lifts everybody up if the head coach does his job that he can do with the football first. And I promise you, if Bama's defense ever sucks, you're going to see Nick Saban crumble a little bit. But it won't suck on defense as long as he's there because he's going to make sure it does it, and I just think that's important.
Where I'm at with this, and you asked us both the same question. I think he's back next year. I just do. Now
I guarantee he's gone.
Yeah, I know it.
Not because of you, because I'm a big believer and it goes opposite of the percentage, you know?
I think he's back next year. And the reason I say that is this. I really think, to Keith's point, Monday he looked like 1,000 pounds were off his back. And that, again, like Keith said, his point, it could be one of two things. He either knows at the end of the year he's out and he's getting a big old check, or he knows he's got another year to try to right the ship and fix it. I also know about pride. And that man has pride in what he's doing. I believe he does. I believe it oozes out of him when he's on these recruiting visits. And he's, to your point, Coach, you said he's an great ambassador for the state. He has been an awesome ambassador for the state. I mean, there's people that know about Arkansas because of him, that have checked out Arkansas because of him. I feel like if they, and I said this the other night to some guys in one of the Twitter spaces I was in, I feel like if they will give him the money to go out and hire a top-end OC, if he will take Cody Kennedy, whatever he wants to do with Cody, put Cody here over inside, give him an admin job, go out to the NFL, find a sure enough offensive line coach, pay him to come to Fayetteville. Somebody that's a guru, somebody that, or an up-and-comer, somebody that's sharp and knows how to run, but they got to match. And I think that's the problem. When he hired Dan Enos, they went from a shoot and veer to this pro-style stuff that Dan wanted to run, and the offensive blocking schemes were completely different. And these dudes didn't know what to do, and they hadn't been able to pick it up all year. It's just like you and I talked about after they lost that first game to BYU. The language is different. You can't just start plug and play. And I think you got some deficiencies there. They've missed on some guys that they've recruited and brought in at the offensive line position. You're going to have to go into the portal and try to pull some guys out of either junior college or go pull them from another school. There's already been a couple of tackles hit the portal, and I'm definitely, and one of them is a big boy at Oklahoma, the big right tackle. He's already put his name in the portal. He's got 2 years eligibility left. You've got to right now, if the roster stays the way it is, they've got a solid crew of kids coming back next year with Jacoby Criswell likely at the quarterback position. Somebody asked me today if I thought KJ would be back. KJ won't be wearing it. He'll be playing football, but he won't be playing it at Arkansas. I think he's going to be playing down in Texas or at another school in the conference next season. I don't believe you'll see him wearing a Razorback uniform next year. That's my opinion, but I think he gets another year. Now, if they go out Saturday and play like they did last week or play like they did against Mississippi State and only win by 3 to 6, 8 points when they're picked like the spread's 29.5, then yeah, something's got to happen. You ain't got no choice. You got to. If he loses, he doesn't make it to the tunnel. Like he gets in the tunnel, he's out. I mean, it's Brett Bielema all over again. You got to do it. You can't continue to accept it. And the average fan, and I've listened, and a lot of times I'll go in these Twitter spaces, and sometimes I'll talk. Keith listens a lot. I'll listen sometimes, but the average fan is under the impression that we're more than what we are. And I keep saying this, and Coach, I mean, you and I have talked about this many times. Until our high school programs in the state are repaired and they're competitive at a high level, and they've got the funds and the money to be able to do the things that they need to do to teach these young men this game that we all three love so much. Arkansas football at the university, at Arkansas State, I don't care where, it's going to suffer. It's going to continue to suffer because when we're good, we've got 60% of those kids are from the state of Arkansas. 70% of those kids are from the state of Arkansas. You go back to the 98 team. That 98 team was full of Arkansas kids from top to bottom, at key positions on that ball team. You go back and look at the 2009, 2010, 2011 team Petrino had. Arkansas kids at key positions all through that ball team. So it's been kind of a nosedive since then. Now, there's some teams that are in the state. Pulaski, coach's former school, Christian, Bryant, Conway, Fayetteville, they're all doing great. It's the other ones that are suffering. And
when they're really good, when the Razorbacks are really good, Little Rock Central is not 1-9.
That's right.
No, I kind of wish I'd taken that job last year. I'm kind of thinking when that opens up again, I may go get it and just turn the thing around so we can freaking churn out some athletes. Talked to their basketball coach last week. I had lunch with him the week before last, and he's like, they're walking the halls. They just ain't playing because they hadn't won a game in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. I graduated from Little Rock Central in 2000, and I told my wife that is my dream job to be the head coach at Little Rock Central. However, I'll probably never live in Little Rock again. So, unfortunately, I'm in Scottsdale right now, so it's probably not going.
You're in Scottsdale, Arizona?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's where I want to retire.
Yeah, it's gorgeous out here. However, I do miss the grind. There's just the football is very different out here. don't feel like there's people trying to make it somewhere. They're not fighting to get out of their situation. I think that's the way it should be, is that you're trying to get a scholarship to be the first person in your family to graduate from college or whatever. And you don't see that out here a lot. A lot of private trainers and stuff. It's way different.
And if they do make a change, this is what I hope to see as a dad of a kid that's on a recruit list looking at the school. I hope the next guy they hire is one of those dudes that'll smile at you and cut your throat. The old Chicago handshake. I don't want a nice guy. I don't want nobody I want somebody that's going to coach football hard and perform and expect them guys to perform at a high level, everything they do, from athletics to academics to character in the community, the same level all the way across the board. There's no letdown anywhere. And that's the kind of guy that I like to be around. I want to be around a dude that I don't care if I'm up 70-7. It's your responsibility to stop me. We're going to keep throwing the football. So that's my 2 cents. Real quick, we're going to hit a sponsor, and then we're going to get right into coaches pick 'em. We only got 4 games because this weekend sucks. There's not a lot of good games. If you're in Northwest Arkansas this weekend, you're looking for a place to hang out before the game Saturday night, check out Barley and Vine. They're one of our main title sponsors for Big Pig Energy. If you're ready for a mouthwatering tavern-style pizza and a drink menu that'll make you say cheers, then head on down to downtown Bentonville and see our friends at Barley and Vine. They specialize in the hottest craft pizzas in Northwest Arkansas, ranging from banging cheese pies to their chef-inspired specialty pizzas that you can't find anywhere else. But that ain't all. Barley and Vine offers 32 different beers on tap featuring local brewery favorites and carefully curated selection of regional craft beers. But maybe you're more of a wine person. They've got you covered. They have a choice selection of wine from around the globe, and don't miss out on their pint and slice combos on Friday and Saturday nights. Get a slice of their house pizza and a featured beer of the week for $7. It's a deal you can't find anywhere else in Northwest Arkansas. Make your way down to Barley and Vine, where pizza, beer, and wine live in perfect harmony. Their interests extend past food and beer, though. At Barley and Vine, they're all about that Big Pig energy and support the Razorbacks every time they take the field. Coach, we got 4 games on the schedule this week. We got little Grayson. He's going to join us tonight, going to help us pick some games. I'm excited. These are the only really 4 games I'm interested in all weekend. UGA at UT Saturday. It's a 2:30 game. Georgia's favored -10, 58.5 is the over and under. Keith, who you got? You got Georgia, or you got the Vols at home?
Georgia found their offense recently, right? So I think they're going to ground pound them in a little bit, and I like the Bulldogs cover that.
Coach?
And the under.
Oh wow, and the under.
That's interesting.
Bulldogs win. Tennessee covers.
Sharp. I'm with you, Coach. I think
they hadn't been as good on the road. Georgia played Florida, and I know they beat them by 23, but it's 43-20. They let Florida score. And then against Vandy, they won by 17 at Vandy. They had another game earlier this year. They were on the road, didn't play as well. So a younger team than has been passed. I just don't think plays well on the in Neyland Stadium. You have 100,000+. I think they'll at least be enough points to cover.
Yeah, they're talking checkerboard in Tennessee this weekend for the Georgia game. Tennessee always comes out, even when they're bad, they come out. But they lost a tough one Saturday night to Mizzou. The handshake at midfield between Heupel and Drinkwitz was a little weird, but he couldn't get out of there fast enough. I think he's afraid Heupel was going to sit on him or something. But if Heupel doesn't watch it, me and him are going to be able to share clothes because he's on some. I think he's shopping at Phil Fulmer's store there on Main Street in Knoxville. Second game we got this week, Kansas State at KU. There's some interesting stuff going on here because Lance Leipold at Kansas has been mentioned for a lot of different jobs. A&M, Michigan State, Mississippi State. Leipold's going to be a hot name. The guy coaches his tail off. He's done really good at Kansas, got him bowl eligible 2 years in a row. Played us tough last year in the Liberty Bowl. K-State's favored by 9.5 at Lawrence. Over and under is 57.5. Keith, who you got? K-State or KU?
I know zero about either of these teams. I may have flipped on a Kansas State Texas game at one point. Who's the road dog? Wait, what time is the game at? Let me ask you that.
Oh, that's a good one. That's good. It's at 6 p.m. 6 p.m.
Clock.
Night game at Kansas State?
At Kansas.
At Kansas.
Oh, at Kansas, at Lawrence.
Oh, at Kansas?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm Kansas in the over. I'm a parlay guy. I lived in Vegas for 7 years. Let's do some parlay.
Coach, Kansas State, Wildcats, or the Jayhawks?
I like it, Keith. I visit Vegas about 4 times a year. I try to go once every 3 months. Love the place. They are evenly matched in everything. Right? And I like to look at first down conversion rate on third down to be able to continue drives and stuff. Man, they're tight on everything. But I just think Kansas State's a better squad. I hate to bet against them. I think that line, though, you get like he said, you got a night game, and they're both 7-3. It should be a rivalry game, and you got Kansas State favored by almost 10 on the road. I think it's inviting you to bet Kansas. So I like Kansas State to win and to cover.
Yeah, I'm with you, Coach. I think Vegas is trying to get people to bet on Kansas. Me personally, I mean, Kansas is playing, I think, their third string quarterback Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Daniels is out. They lost, I think it's Sixpenny, I think so the kid's name. They've lost him. Daniels did come out today and say he is coming back for his 6th year next year to play for the Jayhawks, but I think Kansas State's going to be too much. Third game on the schedule, and this one's one that I've got circled. Florida has to travel on the road to Mizzou. Mizzou's favored by 11, over and under a 57.5. Keith, you got the Gators or the Yellow Tigers?
God, and I know Coach is friends with Eli Drinkowitz. He's going to be the national coach of the year.
Yeah.
He's going to be the SEC coach of the year.
Gotta be.
There's no way. Billy Napier is kind of dead man walking right now. They have no semblance of offense, and I think Napier's calling it, right? Yeah, I don't think the tight front looks good against Mizzou. Yeah, Mizzou. What was I like the overs and the unders too. What was
It's 57.5.
It's 11.
57.5. I don't think Florida's going to score enough to get it. I'm going to Mizzou in the under. I'm a contrarian. I don't think there's going to be enough points.
Coach?
You and I would be friends in another world, Keith. Well, we could be friends in this world too, but I'm a contrarian kind of guy too. But I think you're right on. I agree with you completely. The only thing I don't like is Missouri got way up for that Tennessee game, and it's a little bit of a fall off game for them, a little bit of a letdown game for them. But I still think they win the game, and it probably goes under.
Coach, I've not gave Drink a lot of respect this year. You know that. I don't have a whole lot of good things to say about the guy.
You're just kind of mean to the guy.
I am mean to him because I played softball against him in Russellville and back in the 2000s, and I don't particularly like him.
Did he beat you?
No, actually, I put him into a fence. Coming into home plate, I rolled him up like a dirty paper sack.
Expand that story, please.
Yeah, this is a whole other story we're not going to talk about on here. But where I'm at is this: the thing that I think Razorback fans have got to respect, and I respect this. He is a excellent judge of talent. He does a great job. I mean, Garrett Schrader, prime example, D2 kid, hard running, just a great little running back. Has Luther Board and some of the other guys at Missouri, they've done a really good job evaluating talent and putting these guys in the right place, in the right position to be positive impacts for the football team. So I'll give him that credit. Now, I'm like you. I think they're going to be down a little bit after the Tennessee game. I think they're going to be a little emotionally drained. I still think they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think it's going to be closer than 11 points. I think Florida's going to be ready to go. I look for Graham Mertz to come out and have one of these out of his mind games that, for whatever reason, he just does. I mean, every couple of games, he'll have a game where he just blows up and does something crazy, goes for 300, 350. because Mertz is still a good quarterback. Pearsall's still there. Wilson's still there. They've got the offense. It's can their defense slow Missouri down a little bit and shut the running game down? I don't know if they can, but I still think Mizzou's going to win. Last game, we're only doing 4 this week. Frankly, the schedule this week that it's Cupcake City in the SEC. Nobody.
We could have picked Washington, Oregon State. That'd have been a good one.
I could have. I also could have picked, Colorado and Washington State, and both of them are playing to win that 5th game. And then Colorado still got a chance. If they win, they got a chance to go bowl game still. And I still hold that I think Deion's going to make a bowl game this year.
Washington's number 5 in the country. Oregon State's number 11. That's a big ball game.
It's Pac-12.
And we're fixing to pick Arkansas and Florida International.
They don't play no defense.
All right.
They don't play no defense out there, man. Come on. They're going to
Oregon State would beg to differ.
Washington's going to get into the playoff, and they're going to run up against Georgia or Alabama, because what's going to happen is Alabama's going to end up beating Georgia by some.
That's what I was going to ask y'all. What y'all? If Alabama beats Georgia, but it's close,
they're both.
Are they both getting in?
Yes, they're both getting in.
And let's say Michigan beats Ohio State, and or vice versa, and they play. If somehow I don't know how they can do that, but one of them wins the championship game over the other one by 3, or I think they may be on the same side though, so maybe that's not possible. And then you got 1-loss Texas. Let's say Washington runs the table.
Yeah.
And let's say, or better yet, let's say Washington loses 1 game. Oregon runs the table, the rest of the table. They got 1 loss. Washington's got 1 loss. Texas has 1 loss. Alabama and Georgia have 1 loss. And Alabama beat Georgia by 3. And you got Ohio State and Michigan sitting there that are ranked in the top 3 right now in the playoff run. Somebody's getting left out that's going to really think they deserve in, maybe more than ever. Who's getting in if all those scenarios happen? You think Bama and Georgia are both in? If Bama beats them in the championship game,
beats Georgia in Atlanta and wins the SEC title, I think Bama's in. I think Georgia stays in because they hadn't lost a conference game in 2 years. They hadn't lost it's conference championship game.
2-time defending champion, still the defending champion.
Exactly, defending champion. I think Bama and Georgia still get in. I think either Michigan or Ohio State get in, and I think Washington gets in.
So Texas that beat Alabama and has 1 loss, and they have 1 loss, and they beat Bama. They're out. Yeah, they beat Bama at Bama.
I think they are.
I think they are too. But man, again on the radio show, Wes Moore is giving me heck about it.
It comes down to the money, Coach. You can't sit here and tell me that these guys that are picking for the college football playoff are not looking at the potential TV revenue and ratings, because nobody wants to see Georgia and TCU repeat of last year. Nobody wants to watch that. Nobody does. TCU didn't have a snowball's chance going up against Georgia last year. Everybody knew it, except for the folks in Fort Worth. They're the only people that didn't know it. They thought they were going to win. They didn't have a chance. No chance. So, and if Texas was to get in, Texas played Georgia. Georgia beat the brains out. I'm just,
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think if Bama played again, they'd beat them by 3 touchdowns.
They would too. I think they would too. I think they caught Bama at the perfect time, because if you flipped it and they played Bama at the end of the season, I think Bama beats them by 2 scores.
But they did beat them. If we're all 3 from Texas and we're sitting in Austin right now.
Oh yeah.
We're wanting them to run that table.
Yeah.
So we can say we beat them and we should for sure be in.
Yeah.
Coach, don't believe anything Wes Moore says. He's the type of guy. He's from Texas, and he doesn't even hide the fact that he chooses to back it from his wife. You can't trust anybody like that.
So we got the FIU and the Hogs. Minus 29.5 is the line. Over and under is 49.5. With everything that's going on this week, Keith, what do the Hogs cover, or is it going to be another game of where we're just kind of looking at this with our jaw agape, going, "How the hell did this happen?"
The problem is, we've lost all these close games, and it doesn't look as bad as it was until the Auburn game. The other side of that is the ones we're supposed to win by a lot, we really haven't. So I don't like them to cover. It's a big line. I know FIU is really bad, So is Kent State. So do we cover that game? I don't know
We didn't come close to covering Kent State. We weren't even.
I don't know what are we against the spread this year?
Not
terrible.
Yeah, not great.
The other thing is, I mean, I know Sam likes the ponies a little bit. We've been pretty good against the spread somehow, up until this year, even in our losses. So yeah, I don't. There's two ways it can go. We either blow them out, or it's really close. I'm in my kid's bedroom, so it's kind of that time. It's the witching hour. I'll say FIU. Sorry about that. I'm gonna say FIU and the over. No, FIU and the under, because I don't think we're gonna score enough points on offense. Sorry about the kid.
No, you're good, Keith. Coach.
Here's our record against the spread. We beat West Carolina against the spread, lost to Kent State, lost to BYU, beat LSU, lost A&M, beat Ole Miss, beat Bama, lost to Mississippi State, beat Florida, lost to Auburn. So we're 5-5, a little better than I thought we would be against the spread, to be quite honest. Hate to admit, I would have thought we were way worse than that. FIU, the eye test for me. I watched them play 2 games. I don't know why I watched them play 2 games, but I watched them play 2 games. They're terrible. They convert 27% on third downs. They run the ball for less than 100 yards a game. Of course, Arkansas is not a ton better. They do average more yards per game, but they've played nobody. Our defense has been decent. I think everybody. Here's what I think. Remember I told you when there's a threat of a change, kind of everybody rallies up, coaches first, then players. I think there's a little bit of that going in, because now the coaches are like, freak, if I do a good job, maybe they'll keep me. And then I also think the players, their last 2 games, that know they're going to leave in the portal, are trying to get something good on film. So they've got that outside motivation. I think we beat Florida International by 40. I'm going to say 50-10.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to use your other game against you on the letdown game, do you think this could potentially be a look-ahead game to Mizzou?
I do. I think it could be, but I think when you suck this bad, maybe you don't look ahead to anybody. So I'm thinking, out of the 2 of those, but I think Florida International is so bad it doesn't matter. I really do. I just think they're terrible.
I think, FIU, memory serves, Bush Davis got fired from that job because he outed the athletic director because he wouldn't let him buy equipment. They had to buy used equipment. Matter of fact, they were buying used equipment from Arkansas, if memory serves, because they don't have the budget. They don't have the money. FIU's program is as bad as a Bethune-Cookman or some of the other ones in Florida. I'm with Coach. I think Arkansas is going to blow them off. They should blow them off the field Saturday night. I hate that it's a precursor to next Friday for Mizzou, Thanksgiving week, but I really think that FIU is way outmatched and going to get out coached. If that tells you how bad FIU is, they're going to get out coached on Saturday. What I specifically want to see is we got 2 games left. We got some freshmen that need to get some time. Davion Dozier needs to play. TJ Metcalf needs to play. Dallas Young needs to play. Jacoby Criswell needs to play. I get you got seniors, you got this, you got the other thing. Senior week is next week. Play some of these young cats in this game on Saturday, because those boys have worked their tails off. You've carried them all year. They're on red shirt anyway, most of them. So burning them, they're not going to burn a red shirt playing in these last 2 games. I want to see some of this younger talent get some opportunities on Saturday night in Fayetteville. So that's my 2 cents. Real quick before we get out of here, shout out to the basketball team. We got Friday night, Bud Walton playing UNC Greensboro at 7:00 tomorrow night on the SEC Plus. And then next Wednesday, and Coach, I wish I could go to this because it's in the Bahamas and it's in the middle of Thanksgiving. We got Wednesday at 6:30. They play Stanford. And then Thursday, they play on Thanksgiving Day, they play the winner of Memphis or Michigan. I really hope it's Memphis. I'm kind of selfish. I want to see them go against the Tigers just because I remember those days when Larry and Nolan would go back and forth at the Pyramid. I used to love that stuff. So shout out to the basketball team. And then the end of the, coming back, this is the game that everybody's got circled on the schedule for basketball. Wednesday night, November 29th, Duke rolls into Fayetteville for the first time ever to play the Razorbacks, 8:15 on ESPN. It's going to be nationally televised. It's going to be a pretty highly watched game. I've seen upper deck tickets as high as $375. I have seen lower court bowl seats as high as $2,000. And this game is going to be off the rafters. This game is. And so I really am looking to see what the Razorbacks are going to do over the next 4 or 5 games, because they're guaranteed 3 games in the Bahamas next week. But I want to see what these guys are able to do in these 3 games at the Battle for Atlantis tournament down in the Bahamas to kind of set them up going into Duke. So shout out to the basketball team. I want to give them a shameless plug. Get back with us next week. Coach and I will be back some point next week before the Mizzou game. Coach, we got to talk schedules, figure out what Thanksgiving's going to look like and how we're going to work out doing a recording. We may need to do it earlier in the week. I'm on vacation next week, so I'm going to be in the Deer Woods quite a bit, but looking forward to watching the game Saturday night. Appreciate you guys. Keith, thank you for joining us tonight. Guys, check out the 4th and 25 fund. You want a place to put some money to help Razorback athletes, that's the way to go. We appreciate you joining Big Pig Energy on the Arkansas Sports Network. This is Matt Mosley, Keith Grayson, and Kevin Kelly telling you go Hogs, and we'll see you next week.